Hey guys. Um, I owe you a bit of an explanation, don't I've realized that over the course of this channel, I've only talked about things pertaining specifically to the channel alone. I haven't exactly properly introduced myself. So before I uh, shift gears into what the title of this video is referring to, I just want to let you guys get to know me a little better. So, I'll start off with my actual name. My name is Jonathan Hewlett, and I am 18 years old, and I'm going into my senior year. As it turns out, I'm a little old for my grade. So, I'll have another year or so at the home before I depart my separate ways, and who knows, maybe I'll keep doing this channel, maybe not, we'll see. But so, I'm trying to process how I'm gonna, sorry. So, up until I was at the age of about 11, I was living in a place and circumstance where a big part of what represented me and my family and our standards thereof was looked upon differently than where I live now. Well, I do miss that place I was living in, of course. I'm not gonna say where this was because I don't want to spark any like prejudice or anything regarding that type of thing, but where I was living, it was a place where I had kind of accepted the idea that the friends I had in school probably wouldn't stick with me for someone with like such standards that I have. I know that might not make sense, but it wasn't the best circumstance to try to develop lifelong friendships for like someone like me and my family, because I didn't experience such troubles firsthand, but one thing I did know is my brother had a best friend in elementary school who eventually became his bully in middle school because of our standards. Now, my point in talking about that is I moved to this new community that's more fitting for me and my family, and I've loved living here, and this is probably the best place I've been privileged to live in my opinion. But I've lived here for about 6 years, going on 7 pretty soon. And coming here, I kind of carried with me the low priority of social life and making the effort to talk to and hang out with people outside of the home. And with that, I carried pretty evident deficiencies and the ability to do so. I kind of considered social life as an optional thing that didn't really have very long-term benefits. The thing is, I had wired myself to the point where the very idea of hanging out with school friends outside of school, let alone over the summer, was absolutely it was absolutely bizarre to me. Like, even today, it still kind of baffles me that that's something you can do. You can go outside of school, even during summertime, and go to a friend's house or invite a friend to your house. Because I didn't and don't really do that kind of thing, because I didn't wire myself to do that. Rather, when school was not in session, I would focus on the individual hobbies that I enjoyed doing when I was not at school. And later on, that would look like what I do now, like making stop motion videos and posting an occasional video on YouTube when I have an opportunity and motivation to do that. But even before the move, I noticed that my interactions with those I did interact with, something just felt out of sync, kind of oddball-ish, if you know what I mean. I realized that one of my greatest weaknesses in basically any circumstances, I cannot improvise very well. Which is kind of ironic because one of my greatest hobbies is doing theater. But the thing is, that's my greatest weakness in theater as well. Like, I have to do things that are structured and scripted. And when they are scripted, I do perfectly fine in these roles that I'm playing once I master them. And, like, you know, rehearse it over and over and such and such. But the thing with social interaction is it doesn't allow you to do that. You can't just walk into this group and know what's going to be said and know how you are going to respond. And for me, it's like, how am I supposed to do this? How do people just know what to say? Like, they're like superhuman in their ability with speech and engagement with one another. And I am not. Starting several years ago, as I was pondering about all this, I began to feel a very strong sense of inadequacy and things related to the need to collaborate socially with others that I am probably going to be working with and collaborating with. And it led me to ponder how my work style seems to differ from other people's work styles. Oftentimes, I would take several agonizing hours on homework assignments that apparently should have only taken like half an hour. I was often like the last person to finish the math assignments, or at least among them, and was like one of the only people that had to take it home to work on it and finish it before bringing it back to school and turning it in. And it became pretty discouraging to me, so naturally I'm trying to mentally resolve what this could mean for me, if it means something. And there was a point, while I was in the midst of agonizing over a pretty troubling assignment for me, I was considering the apparent deficiencies in my interactions. And I also reflected on the fact that I did not start crawling until I was a year old. And I didn't start walking until I was 18 months old. So I was naturally wondering, could this all tie to one thing? Is there something wrong with me? And so I began discussing these concerns with my parents, and what I learned is doctors, sometime when I was maybe like a few years old, they asked my parents if they wanted to do autistic scanning on me. And all they saw was a happy child with his older siblings that had not much trouble. So they declined the offer. And this is something I'm actually kind of grateful for, because if I had gone about my whole life knowing about a diagnosis that I wouldn't receive until way later, I would have already started from the very beginning viewing myself as alienated from those around me. And it would have greatly affected the way I perceive my ability to learn new things and obtain new hobbies and find relationships that I would eventually have. So, as of just a few days ago, I have received a positive diagnosis of the autism spectrum, specifically level 1. And what greatly factored into that diagnosis was both what I had stated and displayed concerning my social stability and differences. Like, things don't run on clear rules for me, and I have a need for predictability in that arena. And what it's caused me to realize is I can't focus on trying to fix what negatively impacts my abilities or the abilities themselves. Rather, I should focus primarily on the things that make me happy and where my strengths lie. Because by focusing on those things, they can enhance my confidence for the things I don't currently have confidence for. My interest in theater is probably the only reason I have people I actually hang out with and enjoy their company. I do, however, sometimes worry that I come across as maybe pushing them away, that I don't want them around because I put more focus on my personal interests than I put interest in my time with them and hanging out with them. And while I am not very proficient, at least as much as they seem to be, I'm very grateful that I have people I can look up to. I just want to thank those who have subscribed to this channel for supporting the content I create. And I know that these past few months I have posted rarely anything at all. This is the first time in who knows how long that I've posted anything. And I am sorry that I couldn't keep you guys up to date with everything. And there may be some unfulfilled promises, like the infamous promise of reciting the ABCs 1,000 times. Just know, as much as I want to fulfill that promise, I don't want to get other people's hopes up too much, simply because of life is such an unpredictable thing, but then again, it's such a wonderful thing. I want those watching to just consider what makes you special. Because, of course, no two humans are alike, so there's no better time than now to figure out what sets you apart from all others around you. Where are your strengths? What are your interests? How can you focus on those? How can you improve yourself in that way? If you're marked by any kind of deficiency, I just want you to know that your weakness doesn't define your character. It really doesn't. Wow, this part wasn't scripted. But what does define your character is the manner and effort in which you put into navigating that weakness. And of course, as a certain elderly man once observed, it is our choices, Harry, that show us who we truly are. Far more than our abilities. I just want you to go about your day, just love yourself, and appreciate those who support you, and being open about your struggles. Just do that, and people there. I guarantee there will be people who will be there for you. I just want to thank you guys for bearing with me and my absence and often strange content that I often question myself for having posted, but I want you to know there will be more. And the Vault of Matsumusa series is still in the works, and the brainstorming process, just be sure to stay in tune for that whenever the sequel comes out. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not already, or just feel inclined to do so. And have a good day. Great days are nice to have. So go have a good day. All right? All right. Love y'all.